Yep.
Sounds good. All right, so welcome everyone to the Enduring Value of GEO by SSPI-WISE. Before we get started, I did want to turn it over to Tamra for a special announcement before we get started. Tamra?
Absolutely. So, good morning, everyone, and good morning if you're in the East Coast or in the United States, and good day. Let's go with good day. I am super excited to be here for this part of the Eternal Orbit SSPI campaign, and very grateful for SSPI-WISE to have made this important contribution to the campaign. My task right now, however, is to give us a little bit of news. I hope that some of you have already seen this news, but if not, I'm very excited to report that as of today, SSPI has announced our Mentor of the Year for 2023. And our Mentor of the Year for 2023 is none other than our fearless and amazing chairwoman, Mrs. Deborah Factor. Deborah, congratulations for this exciting news that has come out today. And would you like to come and say hello to us all?
Sure. Hi, Tamra, Jomya, and our SSPI-WISE community. Thank you so much for this fantastic honor. I was completely surprised. My team, in their ever being so clever, nominated me and had such a ton of support from around the community, of which you are all part. I think everybody knows that I'm super passionate about mentoring others, inspiring, creating a future together, and certainly the values that we all share in SSPI-WISE, and all of your contributions to our working groups and everything that you do every day in your careers, in your daily lives with your friends and colleagues, families, etc. So I'm super excited to receive the honor and also to share it with SSPI-WISE, the community. So thank you again. Super excited, and we'll be there in California in a month. I can't believe it'll be October already for the awards. So I look forward to that, and also meeting the 20 under 35 and the Promise Award winners will be a really great night. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Deborah. So I'm just going to let everybody know that I put that in the chats for us. www.satfuture.com. This is our Future Leader Celebration, where Deborah will receive her award, where we will also, as Deborah just mentioned, get to meet the 20 under 35 and find out who are the Promise Award winners for 2023. So I hope you all can be there, and thank you so much. And Deborah, congratulations. Very excited.
Thank you.
All right, I'm turning it back over to Jomya now.
Great. Congrats again, Deborah.
Thanks, Jomya.
It's been great working with you. Just year after year, SSPI-WISE really couldn't be where it is today without you. So thanks again for that. And with that, we're going to jump back into the enduring value of GEO, for where we're going to hear from a few more women leaders in the industry. So, okay, welcome everyone to the Enduring Value of GEO by SSPI-WISE. As Tamra had mentioned earlier, it's part of the SSPI Eternal Orbit campaign. So definitely check out the SSPI website for more information on the campaign. There's several events coming up, including podcasts and videos from people from all across the industry. So definitely check that out. For today, we have a few WISE speakers from diverse companies involved in various GEO missions. Before we jump into their stories, I'll start with a brief overview on GEO, just to get everyone on the same page. There's people with lots of various experience, some who have been here for quite a number of years, but we also have people here who may have just started out in their careers. So we hear about GEO, we hear about LEO. Let's get into what that all means. So let's get started. Now, before we go into the presentation, we would like to say thanks to Hughes Network Systems for underwriting this campaign. The whole Eternal Orbit campaign is brought to you by Hughes Network Systems. All right, so what does it mean when a satellite is in GEO? There are several orbits. The main orbits that we talk about are LEO, which is the closest, MEO, and then GEO. So as you can see, GEO is the farthest compared to all three orbits. LEO is a lot closer, and that helps with latencies of transmissions, but why GEO? So let's dive into this. So here you can see LEO, it covers a portion of the Earth. Now we have MEO that covers a little bit more of the Earth. And finally, we have GEO, which really covers about a third of the Earth. And as you go from LEO to MEO to GEO, that coverage does increase significantly. So why GEO? So let's dive into each of the orbits. First, we have LEO. Here you can see some of the LEO constellations. Typically, there's hundreds of satellites that have to work together in order to really support this global coverage. These satellites are constantly moving at various speeds around the Earth. So if you have a point on the Earth, there's a lot of satellites that fly over it in order to support that area. So the ground sites are constantly talking to each of the satellites as it goes past that particular spot on Earth. So then let's jump to MEO. So in MEO, it does have a little bit better coverage. So in this case, we only need 6 satellites in order to cover the Earth. The satellites are still moving at a speed different from the rotation of the Earth. So the ground system does have to have some sort of tracking in order to see which satellite is above at that given time. And then finally, we have GEO. So for GEO, these satellites are geostationary Earth orbit satellites, and they move at the same rate of the rotation of the Earth. So these satellites generally cover the same area on Earth. You can move the satellites around to cover a different spot on the Earth, but in general, since it is geostationary, it has a constant link to that spot on the Earth. Based off of this coverage, only 3 satellites are needed to cover the entire globe. So when you see the Eternal Orbit logo, that's why we have 3 satellites in that logo. All right, so let's dive into what these satellites are used for. So for GEO, there's various uses of these satellites. These 4 shown here are just overall examples of these missions. So for the first one, we have TDRS, which is Tracking and Data Relay Satellite. These satellites are used for communicating between different satellites, different spacecrafts, and ground terminals. So for example, this may be a TDRS satellite communicating with ISS, the International Space System, and relaying that info from ISS back down to the ground. So this is really going between the different spacecrafts. Okay, and then the next one, broadcasting. So fun fact, one of the uses for the first GEO satellite, which is SYNCOM, which there's a picture here on SYNCOM. This was designed by Harold Rosen and the team, and this satellite was used for broadcasting the Tokyo Olympics in 1964. And from then, nowadays, we have several companies within broadcasting, including those that you see on the right. So JSAT broadcasts over Japan. We have Telesat, SiriusXM, Foxtel. All of these satellites do broadcasting around the Earth. Next, we have communications. So this is providing internet and communication services. You can see Viasat and Pacific on here. They both hold a close place in my heart since I got to work on both of these satellites from paper to in orbit as we handed it over. It's pretty cool going from that paper design all the way to being able to use it while I'm flying in an airplane, trying to either watch videos or do work. A lot of the services are provided by these communication satellites. And then the third picture you see here is Jupiter 3. We'll hear more from Fiona shortly. Fiona is one of the program managers for Jupiter 3. And then finally, another example is Earth observation space situational awareness. Here you can see some GOES images. We have Himawari, which is the Japanese satellite, which also does Earth observation. These satellites are constantly sending images back to the Earth and gives us a sense of the weather, air mass, light density, and overall just gives us really cool images to see different temperatures all around the Earth. So if you go to the GOES website, you can check out those images there. So those were just a high level what geosatellites are used for and what geosatellites are about. So let's hear from our speakers. So let's give a warm welcome to our speakers. Today we have Fiona Turgeon, the staff program manager for Jupiter 3 from HughesNet. Kerstin Roost, the director of global accounts and strategic partnerships at ST Engineering iDirect, and Sílvia Borges, a pre-sales engineer at Hispasat. And then, as Tamara mentioned, if you have any questions at any time, please put them in the chat, and we'll get to it as we hear the stories from our speakers. And with that, let me turn it over to Fiona.
Hi, everyone. Like Jomya mentioned, I'm Fiona Turgeon, and I am a program manager at Hughes, and I was working on the Jupiter 3 program. So this has been a very exciting year for us here at Hughes. We'll talk more about Jupiter 3, which we just launched this summer. And so to start off, we just wanted to show a short, just a couple minute video of our launch from earlier this summer.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, engine full power, and liftoff. The Falcon Heavy. Go Falcon 9, go Falcon Heavy, go liftoff. Stage 1, chamber pressure is nominal.
Okay, so with the launch of Jupiter 3, we now have we've got the largest Ka band high throughput satellite fleet over the Americas. So with just 3 satellites, which includes Jupiter 1, which we launched in July of 2012, that provided 120 gigabits per second for us. And then Jupiter 2, which we launched in December of 2016, and that provided 200 gigabits per second. And then Jupiter 3, which we'll talk about more, and our 3 hosted payloads, which are Hughes 63 West, Hughes 65 West, and Hughes 20 West. We now have over 1 terabyte of capacity over North and South America. So here, just a cool photo of our Jupiter 3 satellite in the factory as it was built before it got packaged up and shipped for the launch. It was built by Maxar, and it is now the heaviest commercial geosynchronized satellite ever launched, coming in at over 9 tons. And another cool fact is you can see this on the side here, the solar array, and when they both are fully opened, they span 127 feet. So you were probably able to see it in the video, but this was launched on a Falcon Heavy earlier this year in July by SpaceX. And after the launch, the 2 side boosters were returned to the ground. And this was actually the first time they had done a double booster return at night. And that happened before the separation of the spacecraft from the Falcon Heavy, which was at the very end of the video. So just some more facts about our new Jupiter 3 satellite. So it offers 500 gigabits of capacity, which adds to our fleet, like we talked about earlier with J1, J2, and our hosted payloads. And we'll have service plans with speeds up to 100 megabits per second. On our satellite, we've got 300 user beams that cover North and South America, and those are all using Ka band. And then we have 18 active gateways along with 2 diversity gateways that are available on standby to maintain the availability of the system. These gateways are using QNV bands, which is nice. There's more bandwidth available there, and therefore we can get higher throughput. And this frees up Ka band for our user beams to provide better service there. So with our satellites, we're able to have multiple missions with our spacecraft. We have a high number of features that we support, including in-flight Wi-Fi, maritime connections, enterprise networks, backhaul for mobile networks, community Wi-Fi, home internet, and all of this can be provided over the entire continent with just a single satellite, which is definitely a pro for geosynchronous satellites. So that's kind of all we have, just a quick overview of J3 and what's the exciting things to come for Hughes here in the coming months.
Great, thanks, Fiona. All right, so now we'll turn it over to Kerstin from ST Engineering iDirect.
All right, thank you very much, Jomya, and welcome everyone around the world. And before I start, I would like to share that I'm very thrilled to talk on this very important topic. And I'm for sure using the opportunity to congratulate one of our leaders, right, being now recognized also with an award on mentoring, as it's important to think of the next generation to come on board. And thinking about next generation, I hope that in the next 10 minutes, you will see that the next generation should be for sure being busy also on geosatellites as one of the orbits that are there. And on social media, I promised to also link it to some personal experience. So no pressure on that. And I would like to obviously use also the chance to thank for sure Jomya, Tamara, Rosario, Elizabeth, Julie, Chris from our team and from the SSPI-WISE team for their continuous support on lifting up women in the industry and giving a platform like this to connect also partly as a safe space or to experience or try new things. This is much appreciated. and happy to be part of that to go this further. So back to GEO orbit, and as Jomya said, you only need 3 satellites to span the entire globe, and so you're also seeing the speakers from 3 different continents to join us today. And this is like you see the eternal orbit on the right hand side, that graphic. This is spanning the entire world. So my name is Kerstin Roost. I'm with ST Engineering iDirect, as said already, and I'm happy to probably share a bit some experience from 90 years in this exciting satellite industry. And this fun fact, obviously all on GEO orbits. You saw already different use cases, right, presented by the woman before me. And we heard on mobility, that includes a maritime, aero. We heard about enterprise, consumer connectivity. We heard about video broadcast scenarios where satellites are being used, and also backhaul or cellular backhaul, if you want, where satellite would connect, where places are unreached, or they are high up in the sky. So this is then for air. When you think of course, constellations that are in sky, you're not seeing me now floating around with a background in sky, because when you think of innovation in space, as Jomya and Fiona aligned out, and we will hear also later from Sílvia from Hispasat, is this needs to pair also with the ground. And this is where ST Engineering iDirect, my company I'm working for, is active in and brings innovation forward. When you think of the innovation in space, you need to have, of course, a counterpart on the ground, because this is where the connectivity is going to happen, either on air and sea or over the oceans. And there you need specific assurance of quality, efficiency. When there are a lot of people or a lot of vessels or a lot of cities being connected, you need scalability. You need to have the right user experience, no matter where you are, being you on a ship or being you at home, in your garden or somewhere else. And of course, you want to enjoy the same performance as if you would be connected via fiber, but this now all over satellite. And of course, you could imagine this needs to be different, and there are different challenges if you are, of course, diving into these specific verticals. And let's maybe take that as something. And we just heard from Jomya, right, who's calling us in from Japan there. I'm sure you either had a direct flight or you went through Singapore. All of you who probably went to some of the industry events there or visiting customers. We heard of some customers earlier. You might pass by Singapore. If it was a night flight, you might have seen a lot of vessels connected down there, and you saw the light up. And fun fact here is this is the most busiest path you can imagine, where a lot of vessels are crossing. So this is how it looks when it is not so colored up with vessels. And these vessels can be cruise ships, where you have probably 4,000 or 5,000 people there, all connected over satellite, or it can be any fishing vessel even. And you might think, fishing vessel, why do they need internet connectivity? Well, in the times of digitization, also them need to be connected. There might be only few members from the crew on board, and they all need internet connectivity, and this being enabled over satellite. If you are in maritime, you might know that only if you are coming closer to shore, 20 kilometers, then you can connect via land. If it is farther away, then only satellite can help you to connect. And you see here, especially the crowded area in the middle, that there are a lot of vessels, users who want to use the same bandwidth, the capacity that is there over one satellite. And so you need to ensure high quality and innovation, bringing that to you. Let's dive a bit more into that. And there is a video starting there, but let me talk a bit to it. There's no fancy music. I'm sorry for that. So we need to continue with my voice here. What I would like to show to you is we have GEO, that is, as you have heard from Jomya, along around, and there is innovation brought to you in space and on the ground, and this is to continue. There's innovation today. It's proven, and this by a big ecosystem working on it. So let's dive back into the quality, right? And thinking about the vessels. And you have seen the different colors on the slides before. So imagine now you would pile them all up. They have different needs. There are maybe video calls running. There are just some users downloading their latest files, and they are all on the same satellite. They may be all in the same beam, and so they're all competing with each other. So you need to have technology ensuring that they are getting what they deserve. Maybe they have agreement with customers, with service providers, and you want to ensure them having the right services they agreed for or they promised to get. And without going into any technicalities here, just want to have you to see how this could look like, that you have an automated adaptation of that traffic, even though it's very bursty, if there are a lot of concurrent users, and this in an optimized way. If you'd like to hear more on that, you can, of course, feel free to scan the QR code and in an hour dive more into it, and of course, follow this session further. Good. All right, I don't want to stay longer on the technology, and the main takeaway is there is innovation to continue on GEO, this on space and on the ground. And there is, where my company, as Engineering iDirect, is experienced, there is also technology we brought forward, and this is in use today with our customers. All right, let's move on. Now, we have heard about different constellation before, and Jomya gave that overview. Next to GEO, we heard about other orbits. We're focusing on GEO. We have heard this is around for a long time. Think back of the vessel. Think back of the crew that is there. They might access files, sharing it with their headquarters, and this might be a document that's on somewhere in the cloud. So it's cloud-based, but this is not just the files they're working on, also the orchestration, the virtualization, it's all cloud-based, and we see more to come. So you see that for also GEO, there is more innovation to come. We see more visualization, standardization, orchestration, and this in space and on the ground. So innovation to continue. This as the main message I want to bring to you. So now you might think, all right, but still we heard about the other orbits. That's correct. And we know, and we have seen a launch earlier, right? I can confirm you, we're also very busy, myself involved in bigger programs and programs to come on new GEO satellites that we see revenues linked to GEO will continue. We see an outpace of the non-GEOs. Still, the revenues are continue to grow here. And this is a graphic I saw from NSR, and I think this is a kind of motivation for our industry, still a reminder that we need to continue working together as an industry, using the knowledge we have and leveraging our partnership and the ecosystem. So I tried of thinking about a triangle that's magic. We have seen terminals, right, Jomya? You had them on your slides. This is on site. They have a good price and value here. The terminal pricing is relatively low. And in some areas, there are probably some issues if you think of other constellation and new kids around the block having really the landing rights. So think of that triangle when you think of the magic. And if you are a service provider joining us, this might be your golden go-to triangle you want to further discuss with, and you have experts of that here in the call. And the last slides I want to bring to you is on the next one. And this is the promised link to something. When you think of this cost effectiveness, right, and the terminal pricing, and this goes now to where we know a satellite was there for several decades now and GEO proven. We know that partnership made this possible, and also with an optimized with partners. For example, think of Papua New Guinea. Just a year ago, exactly on this date, I was in Papua New Guinea, was on connectivity, and there you would see that there usually when you are remote on one of the islands, when you travel to customers, when you are maybe in a hotel, the only way to connect is then via satellite. And you know that they are cost effective, sufficient connectivity is needed. And if you are having a business there, it's essential for business. And so we absolutely also have to think of the vessel, the quality of service we bring forward. This is there today. Innovation is there for GEO, and this to continue. With that, I'm at the end of my 10 minutes, and I just brought to you a summary that I'm happy to confirm that together with our colleagues, customers, partners, and probably the speakers in front of me and Fiona after me, Sílvia after me will confirm that there are partnerships in place to continue growing this further. And we are sure that we all understand the future looks hybrid. So it is satellite also combined probably with fiber. Still, our industry has a lot to leverage on, and go-to-market strategies and partnerships are key.
Thanks, Kerstin. And before we go on, there is a quick question. What can you explain what landing rights are?
Okay, all right. So imagine you having a constellation and you think of, let's take a country in Asia, and you would have a beam that would go over a country X and a company Y, and you are a service provider who's offering a service. It could be that you don't have the rights, the legal rights to offer services there. And this is what we probably see being promised by some new players around the block, that they say that this is up there, that you can have access to new services. It's all great. Still, there are no commitments or confirmation from the governments of these countries to allow them to use this constellation in country, and for sure not to offer commercial services. So, and I think this is something we are experienced as an industry for decades here. And this is probably some of the challenges, especially in underserved potential regions. We see this is there, the promise there, and you need to have, of course, the rights, legal agreements. You need to base it on standards that are there. So this goes to policies that are there. If there are any questions, please connect here. As a QR code, you find me also on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share more if you have any interest there.
Great. Thanks, Kerstin.
You're welcome.
All right. With that, let's turn it over to Sílvia.
Hi everyone. So my name is Sílvia Borges. I'm a pre-sales engineer at Hispasat. I have been working in the satellite industry for over 12 years now, and I have worked both in satellite operators as well as Viasat manufacturers. So, okay, starting, Hispasat is a Spanish satellite operator. We currently operate with 10 in-orbit satellites with coverage all over America, EMEA region, and the Atlantic corridor. I have a map here that has sort of like the coverage of our different satellites combined, so you can see we are very well positioned for our focus region. We use Ka, Ku band, as well as C-band, which continues to be a very well used in some markets in countries like Brazil, though with some restrictions. As we know, it's not used like everywhere anymore, but especially in tropical areas, it's still a technology that has endured a lot. So I think we can stay a little bit on the theme here with this. And as it was mentioned on the presentations before, on the past decade or so, like the satellite operators that have been transitioned to work a lot more with managed services, and also the other way around. For instance, like Hughes, maybe Fiona can correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe they start as a baseband manufacturer, and then they evolve to satellite operator, and some satellite operators, they start to evolve from not just that, but also to provide managed services. So which is pretty much changing from contracts for megahertz to megabps. Okay, and on this line, we make use of different technologies from 3 different manufacturers in our Viasat platforms that are distributed over 6 different satellites that we have. By coincidence, the manufacturers that we use for our baseband equipment, we actually have 2 of them here that are Hughes and iDirect. The third one's not here today, but still we you can see it's companies like that have a lot of experience specifically on the GEO orbit. So by using these 11 platforms distributed in different satellites, this allows Hispasat to provide connectivity service for different market needs based on the best coverage that we can offer on the region, and also the best type of technologies and prices for a specific application that our customers might require. So to talk a little bit more about our latest addition to the family, that was the Nexus satellite. The Nexus was launched this year in February and it's already operational. It's a HTS satellite with over 68 HTS user beams and 1 wideband that is using Ka and Ku band. We are offering capacity and managed service over Nexus. So we still have like the traditional model of megahertz, but also the capability of providing internet connectivity directly to our customers. And of the 11 platforms that I mentioned before, 2 of those are going to be using on Nexus. And one of these platforms actually is a multi-satellite platform that uses 3 of the Amazonas, so Amazonas 3, Amazonas 5, and Amazonas Nexus. That is to take advantage of our spot beam and wide beam coverage that we have over America and the Atlantic corridor. And talking about managed services, Jomya, if you can go to the next one, please. So, as I mentioned, this has been the focus of a lot of operators on the past couple of years. Each model that we show here has its advantages for different types of customers, but we have seen a bigger interest in the last 2. We believe one of the best ways that we have to maintain strong relationships with our customers is to strengthen our presence in regions, and that is to have more diverse business models and investing in managed services. In some cases, even full turnkey solutions with a partner is a good way to do that. So companies in general, they enjoy the possibility of having faster deployment of their systems with a risk reduction on their investment, because they don't need to have such a big investment in capex and on purchasing like basement equipment, antennas, and all of that. And also on their operations, they don't need bigger teams to provide support to their customers, for instance. So by using existing platforms that companies like Hispasat offer, they take advantage of this more robust structure that the operators have, being larger companies and having like years of local presence. So at Hispasat, for instance, we offer those services to several key markets, and 3 of those have, actually 4 have been the focus of the company on the last years. There are teleeducation, which apparently not a term that is very used in English. It's more like a translation of how it's in Latin America. But anyway, teleeducation, telemedicine, disaster prevention, and video distribution. These are markets for corporate applications, especially focused on the government, and it's something that we have a lot of advantages using wideband and HTS or VHTS satellites in place of using non-GEO orbits. So at Hispasat specifically, we had developed a teleeducation solution that includes like internet connectivity, educational content management, and where we also provide the IP equipment and video equipment for the classes, and the necessary training for this local rural community to learn how to use these applications and how to use this service like in the best way that they can. And because we have the expertise to do so, which is something that sometimes the government doesn't have a way to design these kind of solutions to provide to the community. So we can like approach a rural area and deliver a solution that will work and will provide some extra added value to this community on top, and not just provide like the internet connectivity, for instance. We also have a solution with Vito, that it's a service that we provide in addition also to the connectivity for sensors, and also a service with the intelligence to evaluate and communicate the risk of fire. And that was developed by our partner for, sorry, by our partner to support the Spanish government in preventing forest fire during the dry season. So on the same kind of base, we can take advantage of these local partners and the big structure that we have to design more specific solutions to our customers and to provide like added value to our offers. You know, so more than just invest in newer and better technologies, like we have mentioned before, like the use of HDS, VHTS satellites, like baseband equipment that has technologies that increase the efficiency of all of our carriers in a way that we can put like a more megabps in a satellite and just like reduce the prices by transmitting more. We can also use this expertise to develop like a good solutions to our customers and provide like this aggregated value. So as like I mentioned before, you can see in the coverage map of Hispasat, we have very strong presence in Spanish-speaking countries, especially in Latin America, where we have a big focus on these kind of solutions, like for teleeducation and telemedicine. I think that more on like a personal note than a company note, like to conclude what I can say about the enduring value of GEO satellites. I think that of course, like we have to continue to add newer technologies and to have bigger capacity so we can like have better efficiency, reduce the prices, and so we can keep our customers with us so we don't lose it to like different orbits. But we also need to focus on reduce the Viasat equipment prices, especially RF. I think this is something that Leo have done like expanded in the last couple of years. They reduced like I don't know, like to 1/3 the cost of the equipment that they had. I think we still didn't catch up on that, and we really need to do this so we can compete in prices with them. But I think we should also think that endurance might not mean just continue with like this massive growing as like a multi-billion-dollar industry that uses only GEO, because we see that the companies are focusing a lot on multi-orbit solutions now. So to combine GEO and LEO satellites, to combine like terrestrial solutions, communicating so you can provide a solution that is like end-to-end with a lot of aggregated value in your services on the middle of that. But I think we can also still endure by looking into opportunities in regionalization, like because global coverage and a global reach is great, but if all of your markets and all of the opportunities that you are looking into are the same as everyone, and they're located in the exactly same place as everyone, like for example the North Atlantic, you are going to lose a lot. So local presence is very important. As Kerstin was mentioned before, like you need to have landing rights. I think you should also take advantage that like GEO operators, we have years in the market. We have local presence in sales, in operation, and in support, which is something that we hear a lot about our customers. Like having a local support and a local team that can provide a better service for a smaller client is like it's not just price, but also quality of service. And this increases like a lot if you can focus on this regionalization in your key regions. So I think that will endure like and continue here for a lot of time, like C-band, as I mentioned before, that was still used in Latin America. And I don't think it's going to be a problem. So that's it.
Great, thanks, Sílvia. Okay, so with that, you've heard from all of our WISE speakers today. Let's open up to some questions. So Tamara, I see that there was one question. Can we talk about the security of these precious satellites? Are GEO satellites more secure from space debris than other orbits? Are they more or less vulnerable to cyber attacks than other satellites? Fiona, Sílvia, Kerstin, anyone want to take a stab at this question?
Sure. I think related to the part of space debris, this has been a concern in the market for a while. Like we know that lower orbit satellites, they require more hardware to operate. So more hardware, in the end, it's more stuff flowing into space. So we have like a higher risk of collisions on these if they're not very well coordinated. So if we increase a lot the quantity of satellites that are there and of companies using these, they could let's not say that it's going to get out of control, because it's not like a high technology industry, and this is like in general well modeled and well behaved, let's say. But yes, it is a problem. We have had issues with that. And GEO, because we need a smaller amount of satellites to cover like the globe, and also because, as I mentioned, a lot of regionalization. Like if we take Hispasat for example, we are pretty much just using one part of the globe, so we are focusing on the same range of the and this a few degrees only, and not like all around it. You have a smaller chance of collision because you don't have that much movement and you don't have that much stuff going around there. So yes, it is less vulnerable in that. Regarding cyber attacks, I do not have this kind of knowledge. Not sure if anyone else has.
Fiona, Kerstin, anything you want to add?
I think on that, you can say that we talked about also probably combining one or the other, right? Not only hybrid network, but also multi-orbit. So what we see that probably you think of using one or the other orbit as a backup. So want to just bring that thought into it. And so you would might think that probably if one orbit is not there anymore, that the other can be the backup. And this is what we're hearing actually a lot from our customers right now. At the end, there are, of course, both are at risk still. Probably I would chime in here that there are less risks. And I still want to mention something to the earlier comment made on space debris. Just had a friend who joined that industry being there, and I was thinking like, oh, right, you might see a lot of our GEO customers as well. And he said, well, Kerstin, I can confirm you that I'm more busy with, of course, the LEO customers. I'm not seeing much market there for us to sell our services into the GEO world, as of course space debris is a lot more topic for the other orbits. And so this is where a lot is to do. And I think we as an industry, and I'm wondering if there's one from the ladies here in the audience who's actually working for one, having software, or there's a lot of artificial intelligence also used for space debris. And with the Luxembourg chapter, we will run something at the end of the month also around that. There's a lot going on, and it's great that there might be in the future maybe standards to fulfill, and we as an industry absolutely take this as a serious threat.
You can definitely see there's a big market for especially LEO cleanup. I mean, Astroscale's been doing a great job working towards that, as well as other companies looking to work with get rid of space debris. Let's go to another question. So Ram asks, I can see how bursty transmission is advantageous on many different areas. What are some drawbacks other than latency? From the engineer operations perspective, what's the required amount of resources provisioned to troubleshoot and support issues that may arise? Anyone want to take us answer this one?
Well, if there is no one from the other speakers, I mean, I'm happy that Ram asking that. So indeed, there is with the experience, right, and the knowledge, especially on geosatellites, there's indeed a latency one, but even for latency, not all applications, not all traffic you're having are time sensible, right? So some are still good. Of course, if you are, we had video games as a topic earlier, then probably you might look at other orbits. Still, there are mechanisms like, for example, HTTP prefetching. So if you are on websites that some content is preloaded before, so there is some technology around that. Then you ask around other drawbacks that are there. I think when you think of where the sweet spots are, because this is where the session is about, you don't have the antennas that needs to they're just once pointed, and then you don't have the constellation, of course, to move with. So if you think of fixed installation, this is, of course, great. This is also where you have the advantages. If you anyway think of mobility, then you might want to think of the orbits as well. Other drawbacks we heard now chiming a light on GEO as well is if you think of throughput or for transmissions, this goes now deep. I don't know how technical I can go, but if you think of TCP sessions that are there supported, we have seen some recent tests, and I'm very happy for our GEO customers that they can continue giving a high quality of service here. I'm happy to connect with you. Just reach out on LinkedIn, and then we can dive deeper into the topic. That's what I can offer now.
And I think that's also related to the next question from Martin. How do you think cloud-based infrastructure, including DIFI, will make for more dynamic use of GEO? Just starting out, as Kerstin mentioned, I mean, if you're trying to have live video or gaming, latency is a big factor in it. But let's say you're watching videos, you're streaming videos, which a lot of the users are doing, whether they're watching YouTube or all of these streaming websites now. That latency doesn't matter as much as live video. So in those cases, the most important part is being able to download large amounts of data at once, basically load up that buffer so that you can watch that video continuously. So that's a big portion of where GEO satellites come in. Anyone want to add to that?
Okay. Well, with our company, ST Engineering iDirect, we are very busy working on also a partnership, and this is a group consortium in the industry around Diffie standards, and a working group formed, I think it was at the end of, 2 years ago already, 1.5 years ago. And if you are interested and you have a chance, not sure who asked that question, if you are at IBC, we have a bit more information on Diffie. I would love to dive with you a bit more into it and demonstrate you some things. So that's definitely something on the agenda. Again, there are work groups from our industry. I think all of us believing into standards, and that is there is much going on, and there were already tests done and confirmation. So we have proof points from our side, and we have successfully completed also some parts. Again, happy to share more, one-on-one.
Thanks, Kerstin. And then next we have Michelle's question. So even after overcoming latency, even temporarily via multipath technology, there seems to be an inherent beam bandwidth limitation. Do we think that eventually there would have to be a coming to reality moment for the satellite industry on limitations? And I know, Fiona, you mentioned QV band.
Yeah, that I was going to say, I think this is something that in the future will have to be looked into, but at least, right now on Jupiter 3, we have our gateways using Q band and V band rather than Ka band. And so that kind of separates the two out from each other. And for user beams, we're able to free up some of that Ka band space and push the gateways over to the QNV to try to separate that and add a little bit more bandwidth there.
And that's been continuously evolving. I mean, Sílvia mentioned using C-band still in South America, but it's been going from C-band to KU-band. K-band got used a lot, and then now we have QV-band coming into play. So there always seems to be limitations, but as we need more bandwidth, we seem to find ways in order to do so. And then let's have one last question. So Kerstin, you mentioned that terminal cost is a key issue in one of your slides. How does GEO stay competitive when LEO terminals are inherently cheaper, low power amplification to transmit, equating to lower cost?
Okay. I think this is a great question. Thanks for that. So I did not want to talk about one aspect. I think it was a triangle I showed, and I want us to think of that triangle and also the points I made there, thinking of all around that. So it's not just a terminal, right? If you think more of that, probably the user might see the terminal, but if you really think of the other industry aspects, there is more linked to that. I don't know in which direction you want to go to answer that question. Also there, I'm happy to have a continuous discussion on that. It's not just the cost of the terminal. There's so much more. There's a service and so on. It's a bandwidth. Probably my colleagues from the satellite operator can relate to that. There is usually service provider in between. So this is there. But again, as there might be some other players on other orbits that have all in one, or they are optimizing or challenging us there. It's again the experience we're having as an industry, the knowledge we have there that is setting us apart, right? And there again, the ecosystem and partnership to absolutely think of the go-to-market here to optimize these things. It's not just the terminal costs.
And just to add, one thing you mentioned that, the terminals, but there's also what's inside the terminal. It has to track multiple satellites and hop from one to the other as they move in and out of sight. So there's other complications along with, maybe the lower power amplification, but it's not just that, like you mentioned, there's a lot that goes into it.
Great. And so with that, thank you again to all of our speakers, Fiona, Kerstin, and Sílvia. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure if you reach out to any of us on LinkedIn, we can further discuss there as well. With that, I do want to switch to this. Thank you all for joining the discussion today. Definitely stay tuned for our next SSPI-WISE all members meeting. The next one is planned for September 28th, where we'll talk about entrepreneurship. So if you're interested in that topic, definitely check out that meeting. And then, as we mentioned earlier in the talk, Eternal Orbit is a campaign that SSPI is running right now. So take a look at the Eternal Orbit campaign on the SSPI website. There's podcasts, videos, and other events coming up. So stay tuned for those. And with that, any last words, Tamara?
Sure. I'm going to pause just now to thank everyone for this excellent presentation. I learned a lot, and I genuinely appreciate the thoughtfulness and expertise that all of our panelists brought to this conversation. As Jomya mentioned, the Eternal Orbit is an ongoing campaign. It'll last about 4 weeks. And next week, Monday, will be the first podcast released in that episode, in that campaign. And so we'll be hearing throughout the next coming weeks about this important topic of GEO, synchronous orbit, and its value. Its enduring value. That's, of course, the topic today. So thank you for participating. Thank you all for being here. And can we please take a moment to once again give a round of applause to our speakers and to our moderators. So, thank you. And with that, I'm going to sign off, and I thank you all, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the 28th of September, again, on the topic of entrepreneurship. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.